Appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and appreciate your patience this morning here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Have a jam-packed show here for you this morning inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Today, to start the broadcast, we will be joined by Matt Langel in just a moment here, the head coach of the Colgate Raiders men's basketball team, coming off of now winning 2 games in a row these last 2 seasons in the Dome against the Syracuse Orange. Then we'll get into Mike Wheeler and I in our video special. Mike Wheeler accepting the position as girls varsity head basketball coach with the Liverpool Warriors after stepping away for a season as a head coach back in our community, head coaching a new program here with the Liverpool Warriors. New opportunity. Andrea Smith will join us to start off hour number 2 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on fitness, as well as marketing and positivity, and how she uses social media in a positive way in a world that deeply needs to hear that message. And then we'll hear from both coaches that will be facing off against each other in the state playoffs here in upstate New York over the weekend. This Friday night, Joe Corley will be joining us for a video special with the West Genesee Wildcats football program, followed by the other side of the matchup with Tom Baleno and the Union Endicott Tigers. So, with that being said, I'm always happy to welcome this gentleman back to the broadcast. Got to speak with him for a few minutes after the game this week, and now he is here live on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and that is Matt Langel. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Matt, you know, obviously you have a long season. You got a lot of games ahead of you. But this is a game that, you know, a lot of Syracuse fans over the years have come to think this is a warm-up game. This is their game to kind of see what they got, see where they're at. And, you know, having games scheduled before competition inside of the conference, 54 times in a row, Syracuse had bested Colgate. And now for the last 2 with you as head coach, they've not only been victories, they've been convincing victories. And I'd love to get your thoughts on going into the Dome and rewriting history a little bit here.
Well, I appreciate your perspective. I don't think that's quite how we look at it as a program. I think we're always really appreciative of Syracuse playing this game. You know, the 2 schools have played for decades and decades, and as times have changed, they've been committed to continuing to play. But for us and our players that we recruit, they want to play in those kind of games, you know, against some of the country's most prominent programs. It so happens that we have one just an hour away up the road and get to play them every year, and, you know, in a historic venue and a place that's pretty neat. So, you know, we don't think much of the big picture or what it means. We just try and take advantage of every opportunity we have, and when we get a chance to go in the Dome, and, you know, the last 2 years specifically, we've had a really veteran team, experienced group who's, you know, not only done a lot together but played in that environment together, and so I think they have a good sense of what the game feels like, because when you play against that zone and in that Dome, it's unlike any other game that you ever get to play. So I think our guys had been comfortable the last couple of years, but every game has its own identity, and each of these last 2 years, the game could have gone a lot different, you know, in a couple different plays. So, you know, we definitely played well. Our guys executed. They played within themselves, and it's something you feel good about. I'm hopeful that this year we can kind of build off it a little bit better than we did last year.
And we look at, you know, just what you've been building, and you and I have talked for years here, Matt, and you've been very humble with that. And I was talking with some people after the game, and they were saying a lot of positive things about your coaching ability and different things you did. And I said, well, what you have to understand is not only is he a good coach, but he's really not a guy out there that I've ever seen an ego. You go to work, you get after what you want to do, and you're very focused on the task at hand. This is a task, and like you said, I mean, you guys love going in there, love playing in the Dome and whatnot. This is a task that a lot of people around the country didn't anticipate and expect from Colgate to do in 1 year, let alone 2 years in a row. What is it about what you've been building there? Because I know we've talked about that before, in building the culture and the environment and the consistency of this team winning. What is it about what you've been building and the way that you've been recruiting that you think is paying off dividends in games like this where the nation is watching?
I think there's a lot of things that go into it, Dan. I think that, what you just spoke to, the culture we've had, dating back, I don't know, this is year 12 for us, but a good 8 or 9 years. We had some guys early on who were really committed to try and do what the coaches were asking. And I think we established that culture in the first few years. It didn't pay off the dividends of championships and everything that our program has accomplished in the last few years. And then when those guys graduated, some young players who, cycled back through. And while the culture was still in place, they had to grow and learn and develop. And so kind of by the end of that tenure, we had a couple good transfers that really helped. We were able to win some games, like we won at Cincinnati before we won a championship. And then, with those continued experiences, when you're process driven and you're learning in those moments and growing, you're taking with you those experiences and improving, I think, is what our guys did as individual players and as a team. And so most recently in the last couple of years, you've been in some championship games, been in the NCAA tournament a few times, played in those NCAA tournament games close against some high profile teams. So again, as a young person, and as a team, you take with you all those experiences and you grow. And our guys, haven't, rested on those accomplishments. I think they're driven to keep getting better and doing more. And I think that contributes to when you get those chances, like we did on the Dome earlier this week, to step up and take advantage and play your best individual and team game.
Here with Matt Langel, the Colgate Raiders men's basketball head coach, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, live this morning inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. When you're out there recruiting, every coach will tell you sometimes you swing and you hit a home run, sometimes you swing and miss. Doing what you've been doing for as long as you've been doing it, and with over a decade at Colgate, when you're building what you're building, what is it in recruiting that you try to sniff out and kind of look for? Because there's something to be said about, you've hit in recruiting a lot. Like you said, you've not only gotten guys to come to Colgate, but you've gotten guys to stay the course, and now you have a lot of veteran leadership, and that does a lot for a team no matter who you're playing. So when you are recruiting, I don't want you to give away the secret sauce, so to speak, but what is it that you've accomplished in maybe seeing through the smoke and mirrors, so to speak?
Yeah, I don't know if there is a special sauce. It's funny you use that terminology because in this past offseason, two of our longtime assistant coaches became head coaches, David Klatsky at NYU and Mike Jordan at Lafayette. And our new coaches said, geez, they've been looking at our program from the outside, Cam Crocker and Trey Montgomery, and they said, what you've been able to what Colgate has been able to build is really impressive, as you alluded to. And they said, in recruiting though, we've been able to get a lot of players that maybe weren't the most sought after players. And they said, what is it that you look for? Just the same question that you asked. And unfortunately, there's not an answer. If there was, I would patent it and sell it and retire quickly. But I think there's a few things, and Coach Dunphy, my coach, who I then worked for a number of years, always talked about in recruiting. We're certainly in sales, but we need in the process of trying to get young people to come to our institutions, we need to make sure we're looking for a good match. And so when we talk about match, we need to find a student who's going to do well and embrace what Colgate University is. We're a small school in a small rural upstate New York community. So we need to find someone who's going to, want that over their career. We need to find somebody who's going to mesh with the players that we have on our roster currently, because, you could put together all the best, all the most talented guys, at your level, so to speak. But if they don't fit together, then the team's not going to be the best again. And I think it's important to have guys, again, our best players have been guys who, even if they had success earlier in their careers, they continue to improve. And so, guys who are very coachable and hungry to get better, but also not at the expense of being a team player and being a part of, some people call it sacrifice, but like we've had guys, our best teams average, 4 or 5 guys in double figures. And so, in today's day and age where the individual often gets so much attention, we need to have individuals who, while they have goals and aspirations, they're also really committed to that concept of team over self. That being said, I appreciate you saying we've hit on a lot of recruits. We missed on a lot of recruits too. Not everything always pans out as everybody plans, but I think that for the most part we're looking for those characteristics and traits in young people as we're trying to continue to build our program.
And Matt, you talked about as much as people want to have individual success, you want to find the guys that think about the team first and are willing to go after team success, and remember the importance of that and how imperative that is ultimately for you to have individual success, to have that team success and be able to move forward. We're in a world where, the me society is all over the place. So how do you establish that team and find guys like that really do care about that? Because I imagine it's got to be hard at times when you're on the recruiting trail to find people that are not me-centric in a me-centric world.
Yeah, it is, but I think you'd be surprised in sport. The people who recognize the joy that comes from winning, the joy that comes from unity, the joy that comes from collective experience, and certainly the being able to achieve the result that you want and win the game at Syracuse or win the conference championship brings much more joy than the heartache of defeat. But those experiences are valuable too. And so, I think you're looking for people who maybe have experienced that a little bit at some point in their life, or have had, coaches or mentors or parents who have helped instill that value of sport as opposed to just the individual spotlight and attention and, all the shiny things, as we say, that can come with individual success. So I think you're looking for those type of people first, and then I think it's not necessarily as hard for them to settle into this culture now that it's in place. Again, we're working really hard to protect that culture because we've got a group of guys, and when the veterans do it and the best players do it, the younger players and the new players have no choice to go in that direction, or they certainly won't fit in.
And and you look at the leadership that you've had over the years and what this team has been able to bring together here, and we look at that around the country of how do you beat the teams, the Kentuckys of the world and the Syracuses and the Dukes and the North Carolinas, this, that, whatever, and we look to teams that have built longevity, that people aren't one and done or two and done, that are staying with the program. Why do you feel people stay the course with your program? Why do you think your student athletes have been so dedicated to you, especially in a world today with a transfer portal and no year of residency where they can leave and essentially get re-recruited every single year and that one-time transfer play right away? Why do you feel that Colgate's family has remained tough during all of these changes in the NCAA?
I think it's just what you said, and every coach will talk about their basketball family, and players refer to it as a brotherhood. But I think that, our guys, and the proof is in the pudding, and our guys in the last couple of years, Nelly Cummings could have left early and graduated, but he stuck it out here and finished his degree and studied here as long as he possibly could. Jack Ferguson did the same year with his extra year of eligibility. Tucker Richardson and Oliver Lynch Daniel. So not only have we had guys who have not left early and transferred, which I think in large part is because of the power of the degree, a big part of why that they've chosen to come to a school like Colgate. It's not just a basketball decision with the young people recruit, but what they've experienced when they've got here, and that's speaks to the institution, speaks to how much they value the time that they've put in and what they've helped build, and what their teammates in the program is trying to achieve, moving forward, that they've chosen instead of, maybe going to other schools or larger schools or playing in higher profile conferences. They very much value what we're doing and what their experience has been, and have chosen to stay here instead of pursue other things. And I think it speaks to their character, the families that they come from, but also how strong and powerful what we have going on here is.
And we look at that powerfulness that you talk about. Set a record in the Dome this last game. 19 made three-pointers in the Dome, a record there, and you had 5 different guys hit a couple here at least. Richardson ended 7 of 11, Moffitt 4 for 6, Lynch Daniels 4 for 8, Baker 2 for 5, Smith 2 for 7. We know that this team can get hot and get hot quick, but 19 made threes in the Dome. I mean, listen, I know guys get shots up, they practice, and there's natural God-given talent, and then there's going through scheming and different things, and then just making sure they have reps. But there's something to be said about a team, especially on the road, that can hit almost 20 three-pointers and have it come from so many different faces. Your thoughts on having that electrifying work that we know can work at the highest level, can work in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of what we do. Again, I think that we have really good shooters, like you said, but we also have a number of guys, as you mentioned, who can make shots. And so I think that combination is really important, because it's not, well, Tucker made 7 or 8 in the Syracuse game. We have other guys that when they're open, they're going to make shots too. So all of the 3-point shooting load doesn't fall on one guy's shoulders. It's hard to guard a group when oftentimes there's 3 or really 4 3-point shooters on the court at one time, because then you can move the ball and it's the open guy who gets the shot, as opposed to just one guy, searching for those opportunities for his team. The other part of it is, in our first couple of games, we played against teams that really were trying to limit our 3-point shooting. So, they weren't leaving anybody open. So we had to attack in different ways. And I think that as a coach, I feel good about, yes, we have the weapons to be able to make a lot of 3-point shots if that's what the game presents, but it's also not, we don't only have to make 3-point shots. It's not like we need to shoot 20 to 40 every game in order to have a chance to win. We've got a great front court. We've got guys who can score inside. If people are running us off the line, we can attack off the bounce and create some other ways to score. And I think all of that leads to the fact that in certain games we will get open shots, and then we have a number of guys who can make them. The fact that we're not one-dimensional in any area of the game when we're playing on the offensive end.
And you mentioned it, and before I let you go here, Matt Langel, Colgate Raiders men's basketball head coach, live on Wake Up Call this morning inside the Cafe Cubal studios. The front court and your ability to work inside offensively as well as your play defensively. We saw it on display in the Dome against Syracuse most recently, and it's something that doesn't get enough credit when it comes to Colgate because of how many three-pointers you make and how electrifying that can be. Just to speak to that front court, the bodies that you have there, and again, a lot of junior and senior leadership in that place.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think, if you look on any roster, we've got 2 guys that are 6'10", 250, 280 pounds. We've got another in Jeff Woodward and Keegan Records. And then, Sam Thompson. Keegan's in his 4th year. Jeff's in his 3rd year. Sam Thompson's in his 3rd year. 6'9", 220. And then in practice every day, he gets tossed around because those other guys are really big. So it gives us some legitimate size and length in the front court, and experience, like you said. I think especially, guards sometimes, at a young age can impact the game in a huge way. I think big guys develop at a different rate. And so, our front court that has gotten older and gotten experienced and played, like they're legitimate. They can play with force around the basket. They're each different guys, can step out and shoot a little bit more. They're all good passers. All 3 of them can handle the ball. So, again, I think that, while in a game like Syracuse, the outside shooting gets a lot of notoriety, it was often, one of them who was either on the receiving end of a pass or making a pass that led to some great scoring chances. And like you said, I thought we battled on the glass, and their physicality and toughness really helped us in that game. and I hope we'll continue to do so this season.
And at the time we're talking, your team 3-1, 3-game winning streak at Brown, home against Wells, and at Syracuse. And those victories that you had against all of these teams, Brown just shy of a double-digit victory, against Wells a 33-point victory, and against Syracuse a 12-point victory. The only loss of the season at Buffalo, 1 point, 88-87. Where is the team at right now as far as what you were hoping for going into the season? And early on, have you already seen signs of things that you've been trying to implement that you think are going to pay off dividends as you look at what the team has done at this point?
Yeah, we don't ever look at it like where we want to be or where we need to be at a certain point in the year. I think we just, it's cliche, but every day we're going to work trying to find a way to help our team get better. I think that's what we ask of our players. That's what we try and do as coaches. I'm encouraged in some ways that, in some areas that we've identified that we've struggled maybe compared to past years or in some of our scrimmages or a couple of the early season games that the guys are addressing those in practice and trying to make the corrections necessary individually and collectively to improve as a team. I think there's a lot of areas on both ends of the ball, like most teams in the country at this point of the year. You can practice all you want, but until you get out there and you have game experience and you see the new pieces that you've added come together and try and fit in, and guys, find a rhythm and a rotation and all those things that go with the season of college basketball that you're adjusting and trying to improve. So I think that we've certainly got a lot of work to do to get where we want to be. But I think that early in this season, I'm encouraged that the guys have been, intentional about accepting the coaching and trying to really work on the things that we've noted that need improvement while not losing sight of the things that are helping us be competitive.
Final note here, besides the weather, what keeps you in Hamilton, New York?
It's a good question, Dan, and I was kind of getting used to the 60-degree weather in November before the white stuff started falling the other day. Hamilton is a unique place. I think Colgate is a unique place. Again, small school, small community. My wife and I have 3 pretty young children. Our daughter's a freshman in high school, and 2 boys younger. And we just really love that our family can be together. I think in this profession of college coaching, so often you get pulled in so many different directions. But here in this community, I think our children's lives, our family life can continue to move in the same direction that that the profession provides. And we love the community for our family and to be a part of a university community where there's again a lot of excellence in a lot of areas that can serve as motivation and modeling for our young family is something that we take a great deal of value in.
Well, obviously the spotlight was on Colgate once again this season with a victory inside of the Dome, one of the most storied venues in the history of collegiate athletics. But I know there's a lot of work to be done very early on in the season, and I know you got a lot of great games coming up here, a lot of great non-conference, and then once you get into the conference games, good games on the schedule here. I know you'll be going up against Lavelle Sanders over at Binghamton and of course, Auburn and some of these other pieces coming up here. But I always appreciate talking with you, Matt. Look forward to talking with you throughout the season, and I want to thank you for the work you've done. Like I said, I know you're humble and sometimes a few words when I try to give you all the accolades, but there's something to be said about the staff that you've built and the staff that's moved on to become head coaches, like you mentioned, as well as the student athletes that not only want to come to Colgate, but want to stay at Colgate. So thank you for what you're doing in the upstate New York community and what you're building at Colgate. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I think a lot of people are starting to see it now if they haven't seen it already. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your humbleness, and always thank you for your time coming on the show.
Thanks a bunch, Dan. We got to get you down to Hamilton for a game here and get some of your listeners to come out as well.
Well, I will be more than happy. We can go ahead and circle one of those, and you have my word that I'll be in Hamilton. Just make sure my Mai Tai's ready and that cabana's ready for the weather. But I look forward to coming down to Hamilton.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. It was good to talk.
All right, thanks, Matt. Take care. See ya. That coming from Matt Langel once again on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Hey, listen, I heard in the winter months Hamilton is the place to venture to, right? The vacation capital of the world. But all jokes aside, listen, I love being in central and upstate New York, and I bear the weather with you all. So, we go through this together, we work through it together, but listen, there's a lot of great coaches, a lot of great pieces in our community. People say, Dan, why do you stay here? And I have the best of both worlds. I get to be here in my hometown and helping out the people that help build, central and upstate New York and help to keep it going. So to me, I get to be a part of both worlds in the sense of being in my hometown, being around, where I grew up and all of that, and at the same time getting to go out of town and travel a lot and reach so many different places and so many different people. We call Florida our second home of the show of Wake Up Call, which is incredible. We do Dan on Disney down there. Well, I do Diz with Dan is what we call it now. And, we do a lot of things that we're allowed to travel with. So the way that I built what I built is that we are here and abroad. So, why be up here? Well, because I love my hometown. I love my community. I love building up these people. And there's something special about building up the place where you came from. And then at the same time, being able to hop on a plane and go all over the country is something that means a lot to me too. So even outside of the country. So a lot of great things to come on Wake Up Call. A lot of great things by the grace of God we've had. And always good to talk with coaches like Matt Langel, and love the fact that he's in our community and been dedicated to Colgate and dedicated to this experience. So I appreciate it so very much and can't thank him enough for it. So shout out to the win against Syracuse. Hopeful for a lot more wins coming from here, and Colgate making it to the NCAA tournament, making a case for themselves in the Patriot League, and just continuing to splash them threes as well as play that front court game. I mean, I think they realized in the NCAA tournament that inside they could hang with some teams, right? And you could play the Wisconsins of the world, and you can fight those games, play the Syracuses of the world, and make an impact. So I'll definitely be watching, and like I said, when I give my word, I keep it. So Coach, you'll see me in Hamilton this season. I'm excited for that. With that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We have a ton of guests. We're going to go past 11 o'clock today because we got a lot of great things coming up for you. In just a few moments, I'm going to be able to showcase my special with Mr. Mike Wheeler, another great coach in the basketball world, somebody that I have a great friendship with, and just love having him on the show and love being around him in general. So Mike's going to be here on the broadcast in just a few moments from the Liverpool Warriors, and very excited. He was a longtime OCC Lasers women's basketball head coach, had the team ranked in the top 3 in the nation, consistently made it to the postseason, consistently had incredible years, beating his record, then beating his record again, then beating his record again. That's what Mike Wheeler did at OCC. And then during COVID, he stepped away, took some more time with his 3 boys and his wife. And I told him when he called me up and said, "Hey, Dan, I'm not going to be coaching at OCC anymore." I said, "I'll see you soon, Coach." And here we are, just a little while later, and Coach is back taking over a program, the head coach of the varsity team for girls basketball at Liverpool with the Warriors. Fantastic facilities. Their facilities look like collegiate facilities. So Mike Wheeler getting the opportunity to coach here is going to be fantastic, and I can't wait to share this time with you and with him right after this fast break inside of the Cafe Kubal studios on Wake Up Call.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, and 401 South Salina Street is where you'll find Cafe Kubal in Syracuse, as well as 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse in their drive-through location. I am ecstatic to be picture-in-picture with somebody who has that orange L on his chest right now. This gentleman, I met him years and years ago when he was coaching up at OCC for the women's basketball program, getting them to be ranked in number 1, number 2, 3rd in the nation, top 3 many, many times, getting into the tournament, doing an incredible job inside of their conference, in their region, in the NJCAA, and beyond that. And then he called me up and said, Dan, I'm taking a step aside. And I said, all right, Mike, I'll see you soon. And then last year got connected with the JV program at Liverpool and has now been named the Liverpool Warriors varsity girls basketball head coach. I'm not surprised that he's back here in the head coaching realms, and I always thought he would be. And at the same time, I'm so happy he got to spend some quality time with his family over the last couple of years. So with that being said, I am more than proud to welcome to the show Mr. Mike Wheeler. Mike, how are you?
Good, Dan. Thanks for having me.
You know, Mike, it's in your blood. It's who you are. I know we've talked about it off the air, but what did this past year of kind of helping out a little bit, but not having to, take over a varsity program or a collegiate program, what did this past year do where you still got a feel for it, but you had some more time to yourself?
It was different, and just to be able to, it's probably been the last 2 years just to be able to, be around with the family, a lot more spending time. The boys, all 3 of my boys are playing ice hockey still, and they're full-fledged into their season, started back in September. So we're doing a lot of that. So the last 2 years pretty much consisted of that, traveling and so on and so forth. The weekends are pretty jam-packed around the Wheeler household. But it's been a great opportunity to spend a lot of time with my family. But opportunities present itself, and it's a great feeling to be back as a head coach and my own program, and I'm excited about the new endeavors.
Yeah, and how did this come about? Because obviously you're on campus at Liverpool and you're doing some things last year with JV. Bring me into how the dominoes fell in the conversation with Ari Lieberman to take over this varsity girls program.
Oh no, just conversation came about where, position came available, and, talked a little bit about it, and, I accepted the position, and it was a pretty quick, simple conversation, and, it being at Liverpool last year and being involved in the program and so on and so forth like that. It was a real easy transition and simple transition, I guess, because, most of the girls that were junior varsity or either up on varsity, and, being the assistant varsity coach last year, I knew most of the entire varsity team. So it's comfortable, and it was easily a position that I would have loved to accept and did.
And when you look at that, like you said, assistant on the varsity staff last year and then working with JV, just what that does for you to immediately have success as the girls varsity head coach now, because you knew a lot of the players on the varsity team and the JV girls that were coming up. So you've had this opportunity to build and foster relationships instead of just coming in as a new face totally. You have laid a foundation, just what that can do for the program.
Yeah. Again, just to follow up what you said, yeah, it's a comfort zone, I think, for the players, and they know, we pretty much ran very similar stuff that was ran at OCC, offensively, defensively, same concepts and so on and so forth like that. So it's something that kind of, blended it easily for them to pick up. So the whole transition, it's very easy, and I'm excited for that. And the kids know pretty much stuff that we did last year. So there's not a lot of, there's always teaching new things and new plays and, stuff like that. But that's stuff that comes along with any team. But, the basics and so on and so forth that we like to run, the backbone of our program, the transition-oriented offense that I ran here at OCC, is same thing's going to be implemented at Liverpool. It's a great transition into that.
And for you, Mike, when you look at this, I know we talked off the air about you saying, I got my own program again. Just what this program feels like specifically to take it over. I mean, you had your own program at OCC for women's basketball, but to take over this program, what of its history and what you feel when it comes to being a Liverpool Warrior, just what this does and why this is special.
It's one of the biggest athletic programs in the area. What I'm excited for is the opportunity to bring it to the next level. Of course, you immediately think of winning a sectional title, and having 6 regional titles and playing in, many Elite Eights and a couple Final Fours in the national title game here at the college JUCO level. It's a challenge and an opportunity that I look forward to at Liverpool to, help bring them a sectional title. That's the big focus right now.
What can you say about AD Ari Lieberman? I've had him on the show a bunch of times, gotten to know him over these past few years. How would you describe the department that he's leading?
Ari's great. He's a great leader. He runs great programs. And I'm excited to be part of that, and to have someone there that supports all the programs and someone there to, lead as well. So all programs have great leaders, and that's what Ari is. So I'm excited to be able to work with him.
Mike Wheeler here, and a couple more minutes on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, taking the job as Liverpool Warriors girls varsity basketball head coach. We have spoken many times for many years, and we've talked about the importance of family. I remember having you on the show when one of your sons had, I think, pulled off, it was like a doorknob or like it was a handle to one of the shelving units or something like that, and the house was crazy. Just what you could say about, like you said, they're full into hockey season, what it's like to be a dad of 3 and to be a husband and to have navigated these past couple of years, because I know COVID gave you time to kind of sit back and say to yourself, do I want to do this right now? Is are there other things I'd like to focus on? And you spent a lot more time with family. So just what that life has been like, and how you go into this new chapter of your life already knowing how to juggle and navigate, if you've learned anything over these past couple of years on how to make it all work together.
I'm a firm believer in that old saying that behind every good man, there's a great woman. And, my wife's been there, supporting me for, 20 years, 18, 20 years coaching basketball. And, I think she was a big part of, she married a coach. She married a husband. She married a father, but she also, I think, deep down and deep rooted inside me will always be the basketball portion, the basketball coach portion of me that will never go away. And I think in the past 2 years, she saw, I was lost a bit. You don't have something that you're accustomed to waking up every day. It's probably like anybody that retires from their job after 35 years. You get up that first day and you don't know what you're going to do with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think when the basketball season started at OCC, and I stepped away, it took a while, and it was able to do a little bit that I enjoy doing, such as, coaching JV and being part of a program, so on and so forth, helping out with one of my former players. So it was nice to be involved again. But I don't think you'll ever have that full feeling of being involved as it would be having your own program. And I think she said the same thing. She said, I just don't think you're the same person. You have to be that leader because that's who you were. So she really was accepting through this whole thing. And, I owe a lot to her being there, being supportive throughout, because I think she knows this makes me happy. And it's something that I enjoy doing. I love the teaching aspects, and I think the other thing, my boys grew up in the gym with me here at OCC. They were little, now they're growing up a little bit more. So they really never understood the aspect of, or the reason why I stepped away. Their whole question was, why? Why did you stop? And I said, it's, because of you guys. You guys are playing all these sports and playing hockey, and being able to spend some time watch you play a little bit. I said, I'll go back someday. Did I know it was going to happen this soon? Probably not. But I think the one thing with them is they're really excited to be back and come back to the gym a little bit. I'm excited to have them in the gym with me. I've already brought them to a few practices, around the gym a little bit, and meet some people over at Liverpool. So they're excited to be there. And then I think that's where they like to see their dad the most, is where they're, what they know of him when they were little. This is what he did. I remember my, 6-7 years ago, my 2-3-year-old was at a championship game in the finals, and he ran across the middle of the floor during a transition break. He almost got killed, but those are the things that, I miss, and I'm glad that they're back, and I'm glad that my boys will have an opportunity to be involved with the dad coaching basketball game.
Yeah. And the Liverpool Warriors, like you said, what this does, and this type of program in our community, to have you, Mike, we were spoiled to have you as many years as we have at OCC, and now we get to be spoiled to have you at Liverpool High School. I told you selfishly, your decision to come back and coach is good for the both of us, because I get to promote a good man and a good person and one heck of a coach. So I know that coming up this Tuesday, November 22nd at 7 p.m., we'll be at Avicoli's to feature you and your student athletes and the season that's coming up. And more than anything else, I want to congratulate a friend. You were first. I didn't have to wait for anybody to get in touch with me. When you stepped away at OCC, you're the one that got in touch. When you went to Liverpool to be an assistant, you got in touch. And as soon as you got the job here, you got in touch as well. So I want to thank you more than anything else for our friendship, our connection, our bond, and the fact that you have always been good to me, which beyond wins and losses will mean more to me than anything.
Well, thanks, Dan. I appreciate everything and the support that you've, given all my programs throughout my coaching career, and the many conversations we had. I'm always excited to talk with you about, life too. You have those great, when you look at close friends and you have good conversations, but you also professional friends, and you can have conversations about your professional work as well. So, I really appreciate everything and the support. We don't care.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Happy to be here with you, and we are picture in picture with Andrea Smith. Opportunity to have her on the show here today, a fitness instructor of over 15 years, a marketing manager as well, has worked with Body Armor and has done a lot of incredible things. We linked up on social media because of her positivity, which goes a long way, especially in today's world. Andrea, how are you?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So where did all of this get started, that you wanted to not only care about healthy mind, healthy body, but that you wanted to share that with other people?
Yeah, I mean, I always, growing up, I was a cheerleader, I was a dancer, like all competitive though. So I think I've always had kind of a drive to constantly like push myself. I was always, no matter what team I was on growing up, it seemed like I always kind of migrated towards like the leadership role on the team, even if it wasn't named that by, the coach or whatever. It just seemed like I was kind of becoming the leader at a very young age. And I'm into astrology personally, and I'm an Aries, so I feel like it's a perfect fit for that personality. But I just always was into it. And what happened was, when I got out of high school and college, I really missed that performance aspect of what I was doing with competitive stuff. And fitness was a very natural evolution for me. I was a runner at that time. And I remember somebody was like, you should, come take this cycle class. And that's right when spinning first took off, the early 2000s. And I ended up getting certified in it right off the bat. And I love music. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And honestly, I just did not have the confidence. At like 19 years old, I was just here. I'd gotten this certification, and it was probably 3 years later till I ever taught my first class. And it was one of those things where somebody canceled, and I had a playlist, and I was like, well, I'll just do it, And anyway, that's kind of how the history of that goes. But I have been heavily into fitness since that time. And I'll tell you what, out of all the things that I do every day, I always joke with my class that when I teach a class in the morning, that it starts off on such a high and then my day just goes downhill after that. It's like the energy of people, and everybody is looking to you for guidance. You know what I mean? And another thing too, I think about a lot with this is that you don't know what's going on in somebody's life.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best thing in their whole day is that they scheduled 45 minutes of their time to come into your class. And I that is not lost on me. I'm always extremely grateful that people choose me to whatever, let them forget what's going on in their day if it's bad. You know what I mean? So I try to maintain that. And like I said, remember to be grateful that I have that opportunity, and to always, share it. But listen, I have bad days too. And I'm not afraid to keep it real with people and tell people, like, listen, I'm having a bad day, but in the next 45 minutes, it's going to get better, Yeah.
And it's something that I took when I worked for other people, and now owning my business of over 10 years, that reality of being on stage, right? Yeah. So no matter how bad your day is, I'm always a real person. I am who I am, on the air, off the air. People that know me know that there's no persona, that's taken when I'm on the air. But you have those moments where you want to share with people and say, listen, I've been there, but this is where we're going to go. And I think you share a lot in your social media to people worldwide. It's something that I appreciate and respect. And that is the fact that you're very real about, hey, this is how I feel in this moment. This is what's going on in my life, or maybe going on in your life, but you always spin it to a positive. Something that I find incredibly important, and on Instagram, I try to do it in my stories, is whenever I write a quote that is from me, I sign it. And I sign each of those individually. You've put out a lot of information as well. Why do you find it important to be the inspiration and not just share what somebody else wrote, but to find something yourself that's maybe affecting you that day that you share with people? Why do you want to be the source of inspiration?
Yeah, I think you called it though, like with it could be affecting you that day at that moment. You know what I mean? Like, I think as a kid, there was a time in my life that I wanted to be a writer. There was a time in my life, I wrote songs when I was a kid. I couldn't sing at all, but for whatever reason, thought I was going to be on Star Search. You know what I mean? Like, I had this vision. And I've always, I feel like, expressed myself in a writing way. I mean, when blogging first came out, like, I was kind of into that when it first, happened. So, I don't know. I mean, I just think, like, if I'm feeling this way, somebody else probably is feeling this way and maybe needed to see this. And it's funny because I'll share something, and sometimes I'm even like just sharing to share. It's something I like, and then I'll get a comment. It's like, oh my God, I needed this today. And I'm like, well, I'm glad I did it now, because sometimes I'm like, are you oversharing? Are you sharing too much? People are going to get weird ideas about your life if it's something negative. And that's the thing. I think it's also important that people know that you don't have to be this perfect family, catalog looking influencer all the time. Like, you can also put out there that, like, hey, somebody treated me bad today and I'm not going to let it get to me. They're going to regret that one day or whatever. Like, if you want to have a little bit of a day you feel sassy, share it. If you want to have a day you want to be, into more spiritual stuff, share it. It's like whatever I'm kind of vibing with at that day is kind of what I'll put out there. And I think there's always somebody that needs to hear it. There's always somebody that finds that you may be, what you put out there, 100 people could not care. But one person might change the way they look at something that they're going through. And I think that's the power of social media in general. That's the plus to social media. Yeah.
I mean, it was always meant, in my opinion, to bring us together, not divide us more.
Yeah.
And I feel like people, I mean, anything in this world, and I say this all the time, anything that's created can be used for a good or a bad thing, even at its most basic. And I said, even a toothpick, right? You use it to pick something out of your teeth, to grab an hors d'oeuvre, but you can also poke someone's eye with a toothpick.
Exactly.
So, social media, in the same respect, going off of that, how do you keep it real in the social media world where so many things are fabricated?
Well, I don't think a lot before I post. I do not plan out, influencers in general. I mean, it's a job for them. I mean, for me, I have a full-time job. So it's like, this is more of like my fun, creative outlet. So I just post whatever I'm feeling. I mean, in the morning, I feel like it's important to show like positive, like getting up, starting your day, like getting your workout in. I find that working out in the morning is important because if I don't, the day starts to catch up with me. I start losing space, losing time. I honestly think that's it. I don't think about it. Like, I'm not the kind of person that posts like the 3 or 4 beautiful pictures and beautiful reels every week. You know what I mean? I am like, every single day I post because I feel like posting. And I feel like that is probably the only thing that gives me that real factor, I think, to some people, is that it's not over, what would be the word I was looking for? I guess over the artistic side of influencers' work, like, the over photographed piece. I mean, you see, like, I'm in my home gym and it's like very gritty, dirty. It's not this beautiful world of Instagram pictures for me.
Well, and the thing is, I think that, we realize, those of us that are actually doing the real thing and not just talking about something, you could take a picture in a beautiful gym with a ton of makeup on, or, accent yourself in lighting, to show muscles a certain way. But the reality of it all is, the nitty gritty of it is, when you're in a gym and you're sweating and you're feeling, I mean, anytime that I've done, I did this walk thing that just became part of my life every day, at least 10,000 steps a day, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy mind. And I kept saying that, and I would go out and I would take pictures amidst it all. It's 91 degrees outside and I'm sweating. And I was like, I'm going to show you, like, this is who I'm about to take a shower. Like, this is what it looks like. This is real life. In today's world, there's so many things out there that look perfect, but that person is not being honest. Why are you so honest? Why are you so real? And why are you unafraid to share that realness with people?
I mean, listen, I'm human. I look at other people's pages and their pictures and I think to myself, like, I wish I had time to do these beautiful backdrops, or I don't know, like take a picture on a mountain or something like really cool, like, I'm like, man, how do these people get these pictures and take these trips and do all these things? But I mean, look, that's not the reality of my life. So if I want to post and do this whole creative outlet for myself, then I simply I don't have those moments. I live a very structured life. I work out and I work and I work from home. So I'm not even, unless I'm on a trip for work, I'm not even out and about into beautiful spaces, and then I've got 2 little kids. It's like, I have no choice but to put out there the real stuff, or else I wouldn't post.
And I love that. Andrea Smith here with me today, speaking on being a fitness instructor of over 15 years, as well as working with Body Armor and other things that you've done. Let's get into Body Armor, because I've had the opportunity to work with them on certain projects over the last couple of years. I love what they bring to the table, and I am a fiend for strawberry banana more than anything else. So I'd love to get your thoughts on Body Armor and why that is an element of your world that you like including.
Well, I'll tell you a story. Over 8 years ago, I had worked for another brand that this specific person has created. So he was actually the founder of Vitamin Water too back in the day. And I lived in Miami. I used to work on that brand down there. And Coca-Cola bought that brand also. And eventually, people were laid off or rolled into the Coca-Cola system. And I just remember I eventually got laid off. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I was just wanted to work for this group of people again. Like, we had a lot of fun together. We were young, late 20s, we had a blast. And Body Armor came out, but it wasn't in my market at all, in the Southeast at all. And so probably 6 months before they were ready to launch down here, I started hounding the director of marketing, this guy named Michael Fideli, who has won tons of awards in the Body Armor world, in a sense, moving on this next year. But I probably called him 1,000 times, and I was like, Mike, if you're ready to hire somebody in Florida or wherever, like, I'm your girl. And it so happened that they had just found out that Publix was going to take them in, which is the big grocer down here in the Southeast. And once they knew that Publix would take them in and put them on the shelf the following year, they were ready to hire. So I actually was the first person hired for the whole Southeast. And this is when, the company had 30 employees. They were only available in certain states. I mean, I had never even tried Body Armor, but I wanted to work with these people. And Mike Rapoli is the founder, and he always says it's always people and brand. And if you can get the right people and the brand has some magic to it, you're gonna make it happen. And that's really what I believe has been the thing for Body Armor. I mean, it's been by far the best experience of my career, the hardest experience of my career, the most work of my career. But man, to cross this finish line and then have the connection that we've had with Kobe Bryant and that family and the many athletes, honestly, that have supported Body Armor over the years during the launching phases. I mean, it's just, it's incredible what has happened with this brand. Like I said, 8 years ago, wasn't even available in Florida, Georgia, anywhere like that. So it's crazy.
You bring up Florida. It's the second home. It's my second home personally, and it's also the second home of my show, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. A lot of work that we've done with UCF, South Florida, as well as Miami, Florida State, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Orlando Magic, the Dolphins, the Bucks. So what do you love most about Florida? And kind of describe your nook of Florida, because there's different personalities in different parts of Florida.
Yeah. So I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, which is the northern part of Florida, if you're not familiar with the state. And my family's here, my husband's family's here. I have lived down closer to Miami, so Palm Beach County area at times. And I will tell you that for the most part, my whole life, I've lived on the east coast of Florida. So whether either north or the furthest south you can go. I never have lived on the west side of Florida, but I vacationed there before, and it's very nice. Listen, at this stage in politics even, and, it seems like Florida is the place to be for many. The state itself is flooded. We built a new home last year, and our entire neighborhood pretty much is either, from New York or California or, outside states, people flocking to kind of come to Florida. And I think that was always the case. I really do, because of the climate situation. Always had snowbirds and all that, but I definitely think now, love him or hate him, Governor DeSantis has really drawn people to want to move here. So it's an interesting time to be here, especially if you're a homeowner, because your property value is quite high. but I personally, yes.
That we have. So before I let you go, speaking here with Andrea Smith, and Andrea, you've painted a picture about a lot of different things. Getting back to the positivity of it all and the faith of it all, you've shared faith, you've shared words of that in today's world. I find that, I've always been a person of faith. I've always believed in God. It's the centerpiece of everything that I do. It's who I am. Growing up as a kid, if you didn't believe in God, you got smacked in the back of the head. Now, in my 30s, if you don't believe in God, it's like more of the cool thing to do. So the world's kind of gotten a little bit strange and interesting for me to see, but I'm not afraid to talk about faith, and I'm not afraid to put it out there. You haven't been either, and it's something I respect. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's funny. I think people should believe whatever they want to believe and do what they want to do. And I think that the biggest problem that we have in this world we're living in these days is that if you don't believe in what somebody else believes, it's considered wrong, and I guess to your point, it was also wrong back when you were a child in that sense too. However, I think that faith-based learning and faith-based belief systems, whatever you believe in, is the answer in a lot of ways for the youth and where we're at with children today. Because I think that moral perspective, I think it's about the way you live your life and believing that there is a higher power and that there is somebody who sees the bigger picture for you. So even on that bad day or that bad circumstance, that everything is going to turn around, whether it's God or whether it's spiritual or, just being spiritual as a whole. I think that, but I do think from a moral perspective that kids not learning about God and things like that, I think that it is hindering some of our right and wrong kind of attitudes and behaviors in children. So, I mean, I am not a holier than thou, and I am not the type of person to push anything on anyone, but I do think that, back when you and I probably were kids, there was much more of a moral standard towards, going to church and the things that you learned in Sunday school, those types of things. I think that really does pave the way as a moral standard. And I think that we're probably lacking that a little bit these days and not teaching children a little bit more about that kind of thing, because I think it gives them something to feel good about.
Yeah, man, I think that I always tell people, if you think that all this stuff happened by coincidence and by accident, it's kind of crazy to think that.
Yeah, I'm a big universe in general. I'm a big, that is my number one life motto, is if you're going to sit around and talk about what you want to do, but you're not putting in forth any effort to make that happen, it's not going to happen for you. It's not going to fall in your lap. It's not going to be this thing that's like, oh, I just got rich, or I just did this great thing and I didn't have to do anything for it. That's not how this is going to happen, but I do believe that if you put it out there and you put forth the effort you're in a better standing than someone who's not doing that. That's for sure.
Yeah. I've always been a person that believes, I believe in God, and then you put the work. You can't just believe in God and sit, and you can't put the work in and have no vision. You got to have
That's really my thing too with the God stuff, is like, that's why I say believe what you want to believe, but make sure you believe in something. You know what I mean? Because you can't just believe in God and pray, but also put no forth effort to what you want to happen. You've got to also put in the manifesting, put in the power into what you want to happen. And then you know what? God's going to give you what you need. Maybe it's not what you want, but it's going to be what you need.
Absolutely. And before we get to a special part of the show that we've done for years on Wake Up Call called Rapid Fire, where you get to put me on the hot seat since I have been the one asking questions. Before we get to that, Andrea, for you, as you look at this positivity, what has been a moment or two of adversity in your life that you felt like were crossroads or turning points where you felt challenged most, that you look back on today and say, thank God I had the faith, the hard work, the dedication, determination, the perseverance to be where I am today?
One would be when I moved to South Florida. I was kind of in and out of marketing jobs, public relations jobs in Jacksonville, bartending a little on the side, and something in me just knew that where I was going was not the right direction. And I met a woman at a bar, believe it or not, who was the mother of someone that I knew. And one day she called me out of the blue and says, why are you not working in your field or doing this, doing that? And we have a job down in South Florida that I think you would be great for. And 10 days later I moved, and I'm an only child. I met the people I needed to meet to work for Body Armor. I made a huge cash out on Body Armor when it was purchased by Coca-Cola. I mean, everything is the catalyst to me moving that and taking that job. And then the second thing was, this is something for another day, but I was carjacked when I was young and kidnapped, taken on a little trip around the town. And it's funny because I tell the story very funny, but it was very traumatic. I was 18 years old. That night when this happened, though, I kind of made a decision that night that I was going to talk this guy off the ledge. Literally, I was going to talk to him like he was a real person and treat him with respect. And I was just going to see if that was going to get me out of it. Otherwise, I felt I was going to die. So what did I have to lose? And I remember that night, I spoke to that man and asked if he had children. And when I did do that, he said yes. And when I did do that, he said, I'll put it this way. By the end of the night, he said he'd wish that he had met me under different circumstances. So he let me go unharmed that evening. And I had probably been in that car for 5 hours. And, I used to watch a lot of shows back in the day, and Oprah was one that would say, if you get into the car with someone, if you get into that car, you're never getting out. And I always say that was the moment that I realized that, you know what, from a persuasive perspective and from a communications perspective, which is what I went to school for, you can talk people into almost anything if you speak to them with respect and treat them like they matter. And I live to tell the tale.
Well,
that's not where you expected this story to go.
No, but it's incredible. And it's, you telling, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I appreciate the fact of what you did and believing in yourself and believing in something bigger than yourself in that moment, to fight the way that you fought and to respect someone who didn't respect you. Right. And, you and I hopefully will have plenty more conversations. I had dated someone that in college, and I think I've told the story somewhat on the show before, but in college, I was probably around 19 years old. And I tell it as a joke as well. There's a lot of stand-up stuff that I do, so there's a funny component. But it was the one time in my life where I looked into the eyes of a human being, saw them turn black, and really felt for that night that I was going to die. And dating someone who in that moment wanted to kill you, and then driving in my car halfway home, calling home because I'm an only child as well. And calling home at 11 o'clock at night and talking to my mom and never forgetting where I was when I made that phone call, and how there was 2.5 minutes of my life that night where I thought to myself, this is how I'm going to die. Yeah. And to get out of that and to be here today, it took a year. And somebody looked at me and they said, you're a victim of domestic violence. And I said, no, I'm not. And they said, why not? I said, because I'm a man. And that's what we've been conditioned to think. But going back to that, everything about that night was crazy. And 15 years later, that person reached out to me and I talked to them about that. And they're like, wow, I didn't even remember that happened. Why, that's sad. That's the only thing you remember. And I said, how could you forget that? They kind of treated it like, oh, we went and got a sandwich together. So, but there's things that I think in everybody's life that I think everybody that tries to be an inspiration, at some point in our life, we went through tragedy. And so I appreciate and respect that. But I'm not surprised knowing that we are both positive people that are trying to help other people. And normally we have a story to tell.
Yeah, there's a saying actually that's like, what does it take for somebody to shine? And it's a shitload of darkness, and it makes sense. You've had a lot of trauma, but you can tell the story to enlighten other people. And, it doesn't mean you didn't go through your own healing to get to that point, and people forget that.
So the final part here, rapid fire. You've been great about answering my questions. Andrea Smith here with me, fitness professional and doing a ton of great work in the positive world, marketing manager as well, working with Body Armor, a lot of great things that you do. And of course, on social media, you know her as Mrs. Fitness Fanatic. So make sure you check that out. You have 3 questions for me in rapid fire. You put me on the hot seat. You get to host the show for the next 3 questions. What do you got?
How'd you get started with a podcast?
So when I was 5 years old, you probably know what this is. Some people may not. I have it in my office to this day. My dad had a word processor, and it was a glorified typewriter with a little tiny screen. She could actually see what you're writing and you could back up on it. And at 5 years old, I started writing stories because I've always had a big imagination. And I realized collecting cards, photographic memory. So I'd collect the cards, I'd flip it over to the back, not even realize I was taking all the information in. So I said, I like to tell stories. I like to make people laugh. I like to see people happy. I love sports. I can memorize this stuff. And I just was like, you know what? There's a lot of things that I want to do, but on my ring, and I don't know how well you can see it in the screen here, but there's a feather pen that's right in the middle of it.
Oh, cool.
The reason why that's there is whether it's stand-up comedy, sportscasting, screenwriting, songwriting, anything that I've done, it's all started with a pen and a piece of paper. So I got into it because I wanted to be a storyteller. I worked at traditional radio. I worked with 3 ESPN affiliates. I worked with Fox Online. I worked with a Yahoo affiliate. And at 26 years old, I realized that morality, doing things the right way, being in the media, there's a way to go about things that a lot of people don't do in the media. Basically, if you believe in God and you want to be honest and moral, that's not that you don't really have a spot in the media.
Right.
And so I realized that if I wanted to do it, I needed to do it on my own. I needed to pave the way for other people. Started my company at 26. I was a sportscaster. Now there's an entertainment show, a Disney show, a sports show, a traveling show, and there's like master of ceremony stuff that we get to do and everything else that's a part of it. 20 different jobs, helping people market, produce, direct, put things together, public relations, and wearing 20 different hats now, it would probably be an understatement, but it all started climbing up on the kitchen table, typing on a word processor at 5 years old.
I love it. I love it. I started in radio too. A story for another day. What is your favorite NFL team?
Jacksonville Jaguars. So
Really?
yeah, it's been the Jaguars forever. So 1995, and they came out. I love the logo, and I've always loved it. Love the colors, and the teal is like my grandma's color. So I just felt drawn to the team for whatever reason, and big Fred Taylor fan.
Yeah.
Always my favorite. And then my first NFL game was crazy. I'd never been to one as a fan. My first game was credentialed for the Jaguars. So I got to go to the game, sit in the press box, have free parking, get food, and then go interview the players on my favorite team. And that was my first experience of the NFL, which was insane. And I've been a Jaguar fan forever. I love Jacksonville. I'm 12 years now coming down for I travel back and forth for all the home games and playoffs and whatnot. So got some big games coming up and hopefully some good stuff. I said 7-10 this year. I'd be happy with it. So we'll see where we end up.
I'll have to go to a game and catch up with you then sometime. I haven't been to a game in like a year and a half, just life reasons, but I'll have to catch up with you for a game sometime then.
Yeah, you definitely have to go. Very, very good atmosphere, good games.
Yeah, for sure. I used to go quite a bit when I was younger. Okay, last thing. Let's see. What's your favorite type of music?
So it's a cross. So when I'm singing or writing, it's probably country, R&B, classic rock, somewhere within that world. I've always lived in the R&B classic rock world, but the country world comes in too. I'm also a fan of hip hop, but real hip hop, not gangster rap, like genuinely good lyricists. So I grew up spoiled. I grew up with LL Cool J, Tupac, Biggie.
So did I. Yeah, totally.
DMC.
Okay. So one more then. Tupac or Biggie?
It's got, you know what? I was always a Bad Boy Records guy, so it's got to be Biggie.
Yeah, it's hard because I feel like I could rap both albums from those decades. Like that Life After Death album, I feel like I could do the whole thing myself on a karaoke machine. But I'm a mega Tupac fan too, so it's like I could never choose between the two.
Yeah, I like Tupac like toward the end of his life. Yeah. I've always been a Mace fan, so Mace and Diddy connect you to Biggie, and to this day, probably one of my top 3 songs of all time is More Money, More Problems. So,
me too. If you haven't seen this, there's a documentary Diddy did on his when he got everybody back together tour. I want to say it's on Netflix, but if you loved that era of life, it is amazing because there's just every single Mace, Little Kim, they're all on it trying to put this show together to perform on Biggie's birthday in New York. It's pretty cool.
And I remember it was a couple of years ago that Diddy got on stage and Mace came out and they were wearing those like space looking suits.
Yeah, the big suits. Yeah.
and he did I used to do the shoulder shrug, the move as smooth as Bugsy, and he got out there and he started doing it, and I called up my buddy who's a big Diddy fan and I was a Mace fan, and we loved them both, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna lose it, like I'm gonna pass out in my own house, like I'm at the concert, like I never thought I'd see them together again. So
yeah, it's, you should check that out if you haven't seen the Netflix thing, because it's really cool.
So that coming from Andrea Smith, bringing some positivity to you as we always do on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Andrea, always a pleasure to be able to connect with you. Happy we finally got to do it on the show and looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cubal Studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York, on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse in their drive-through. I am picture in picture right now with one of the people in this community that I've gotten to know since I came back in 2011 from living down in Florida the last 11 years. Here's the irony. In 2011, they won a sectional championship. Here in 2022, 11 years later, we're celebrating a sectional championship. And the majority of this time in between, I've been sitting next to this man and arm in arm with Joe Corley, the head coach of the West Genesee Wildcats football team. It was the first show we ever did at the Wildcat Sports Pub almost 7 years ago. So I feel this personally for a friend more than anything else. Respect him as a coach. We have a great professional relationship, but more than anything, I didn't care what his record was when I asked him to sit down with me the first time, because as he knows and the team knows, they are always welcome. And now seeing how far this program has risen and what they've gotten to win a sectional title, it is an honor, a privilege, and I don't think I have enough intro time to say how happy I am for Joe Corley and West Genesee. With that being said, Coach, how are you?
Doing well, Dan. I appreciate all that, and all that works both ways. I mean, I think you do a great job, getting kids, student athletes, not just us, not just football, but all sports in the area, positive exposure. And you can't, I can't express to you how much I appreciate that, because it means a lot to me. It means a lot to our kids. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much so. I know you had a lot of kind words over the years. And the last time we sat at the Wildcat, normally I get the last word and I get to say goodnight to everybody. And you threw in a little audible there and said some things. And I appreciate that, Joe. It means a lot coming from somebody like you.
Well, you deserve it, man. I really mean that.
Thank you. And you do too. When I met you almost 7 years ago, this program was struggling. I think you and I were talking about it off the air, 0-8 at the time. So what can you say about the fact that, this school has stayed the course, that Mike Burns, the AD, has stayed the course with you, and that you've been here throughout? Because there's been adversity, there's been ups and downs. And when I met you, it was a tumultuous year. It was a tough year. But I look at the person, I look at the character of the individual. And so to me, I was never worried that wins weren't eventually going to come. What can you say about West Genesee staying the course with you en route to now another sectional title?
It's exactly that. It stay the course. I mean, we all know that high school sports, with very few exceptions, go through ups and downs. They go through tough times, and that certainly is difficult, and it wasn't fun. But that's also tends to be what makes us stronger. When you go through tough times and you're forced to face adversity and work through it, I believe we get stronger, and that's where your true colors come out. And sometimes that can bring the best out in us. And I think that's exactly what it did. It forced us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, are we really giving the best we possibly can? What are we doing well? What can we do better? What can we do differently? And we stuck to what we do, but we found ways to improve. And we obviously had some great kids come through the program. So we're very blessed for that too.
Yeah, and I got the opportunity to start off the week with Seamus Shanley. And he has a very interesting story. And you know this, being a coach and just being around the sport as long as you have. Sports in general, it's a very tiny world, and the longer you stay in it, the smaller it gets. He's in this very unique atmosphere that Seamus was part of the 2011 Section 3 Class AA championship team, so he has a lot of love for you and a lot of respect for you with all of that. He's part of that team 11 years ago. Then 11 years later in 2022, he gets to call the game of his alma mater, awesome. And you guys do it again, this time with Class A. And he played in the Dome when he was with West Genesee and played in the Dome at Syracuse. So what can you say to the Seamus Shanley story, that he's bridged the gap of both, he's been a part of both, and the fact that they both had to do with him being in the Dome, staying local, a very multi-layered kind of ironic thing that happened?
Seamus is the classic example, the classic story of dream big, chase your dreams, go after them, work for them, and make them a reality. I've said this before, and I'll keep saying it, but I was probably one of Seamus's biggest doubters coming out of high school. When he told me he wanted to walk on to Syracuse, I respected that, and I thought it was great that he had a goal and he was dreaming. and dreaming big, and he was going after it. But I also thought to myself, here's a kid that can probably go to a Portland or an Ithaca or a Brockport or a Buff State and have a great 4-year Division III career. He had a dream. He went after it. He achieved it. And 4 years later, he's a starting offensive guard in the ACC, a kid that proved me wrong. And I'll tell you, as coaches, I feel like we have an obligation to be honest with kids and steer them in the right direction and point them for success. But we also love it when kids prove us wrong, and that I can say that for in season. For example, we come out with a preseason depth chart, and the kid surprises us and goes from a 3 to a 2 or a 2 to a starter. Or in Seamus's case, where I recommend he plays Division III football, which is great, and instead he becomes a starter for SU and starts 5 games in the ACC. I mean, how awesome is that? So always proud of Seamus, and I will tell his story time and time again. To show kids that you can dream big and achieve your dreams.
And Seamus and I spoke about the story that, he tells for West Jenny, and that being the fact that not only is there enough spotlight on West Jenny, but he has felt for a very long time that when people do talk about West Jenny, it's not about the football team, and he's wanted to change that. In these 11 years between titles for Section 3, where do you think things are at? And what do you think about his fact of saying, hey, we need to put a spotlight here, and I don't think we talk about the football program enough?
I think we're right where we need to be. Obviously, when you think West Jenny, you probably think lacrosse first. You probably think hockey first. And I have a lot of respect for those programs, those coaches. And I'm proud to be, part of this school and to be in some way affiliated with that, just through being at West Jenny. To me, it's about it's about the football players, and some people may think of West Genesee as a hockey or lacrosse school first, but we think of it as a football school, and that's really all that matters to me. I'm proud of our kids, and I'm proud of the work they put in, and I'm proud of what they've accomplished. And if people put lacrosse or hockey first, that's certainly fine. No one can take away what we've accomplished, and that's what I told the guys after the game Friday night, that this is ours forever. And no one can take it away from us. That's all that matters to me, is that our kids have a great experience, and they have.
Speaking here with Joe Corley, the head coach of the West Genesee Wildcats football team that just got their Section 3 Class A title, moving on to the state playoffs. You had a unique season. We talked about it when we were sitting on stage at the Wildcat Sports Pub, and that being the fact that you had to play your first 4 games on the road because of upgrades being made to the facilities at West Genesee, things that'll pay off in the long run. But in the short term, it was, adversity and having to be away from home and to have to kind of adjust to everything and the way you had to practice and the things that you had to do. Those first 4 games all being on the road, you went 2-2 in those games. Your only losses of the season came in the first 3 weeks of play at Whitesboro and at Fayetteville Manlius, and then you had wins at New Hartford and at Auburn. Bring me into those first 4 weeks and what those losses taught you, as well as the background of the fact that you had to play a very unique season.
I think those first 2 losses kind of made us who we are today. I think, we were still a relatively young team. We had a lot of new faces in the squad coming into the season, and I think we had to kind of find ourselves, find our identity early on. And it was also a character check for us. We had to go through those first 4 games on the road, and 2 of them were all the way out in the Utica area. So they were long bus rides. They were against very tough opponents. So we were challenged. I believe the toughest part of our schedule were the first 3 games. But to me, again, it goes back to facing adversity and going through tough times. And if you handle it the right way and you stay focused and you learn from it, you become stronger as a result. And that's exactly what we did.
Your team has scored a lot of points in certain games. In other games, you've played real close contests and defensively been able to shut teams down. You and I have talked about this in the past, that you've been able to be a chameleon of sorts at West Genesee, where you can score high when you need to, and in other games you can fight in the trenches defensively in a lockdown under 20-point game. Why can this team be multiple this year?
Because they're a team, because they're in it for each other and they stick together. And if one guy's down, the next guy picks him up. That's what it's all about. We would love in a perfect world and in a perfect game where the offense comes out firing on every cylinder and scores a lot of points, and the defense throws up a shutout, but that rarely happens. So if there's ever a time where our defense is struggling, you want the offense to respond and take the pressure off, and vice versa. We've been able to do that all year. especially since that second loss to FM. I'm proud of our guys for that, being able to stick together and pick each other up when we needed to.
Yeah, and we look at defensively, 3 of the last 4 games that you played, and 3 of those games being in the sectional playoffs, you have held teams in 3 of the last 4 games to 7 points or less. Your final home game and final regular season game on my birthday, October 21st, held Corcoran 19-7. The sectionals for the quarterfinal round, 36-7 against Carthage, against Whitesboro on the road, 35-28. And then in the championship game at FM, 23-0. What is it about the defense that is showing up even more so right now? How has the maturation process come to life?
It's just their mental toughness, and Coach Smith does a great job of teaching mental and physical toughness. He's not an X's and O's kind of guy. He teaches the kids what they need to know. He makes sure they're prepared for what they need to be prepared for. But his big thing is going out, playing fast and physical, and playing with great toughness. And he's done a great job, teaching the kids how to be just that. But it comes back to the kids and their toughness, and the simple fact that they were going to refuse to be beat from this point on. They made a decision that they wanted it bad, and they were going to go get it.
Yeah, we look at that. Not only did you win the 3 games you needed to win to hoist up the Section 3 Class A trophy, but after that loss at FM 29-20 back on September 15th, the team has not had a loss since, with 8 straight victories. Just, like you said, they wanted it. They wanted to get after it. I know you talked about, I said, how do you do all these things offensively and defensively? You said, well, because it's a team. What have you seen from this team when they've had their mettle tested? Because it's not like in this, last 8 games winning 8 in a row. It's not like they haven't played in close games. It's not like there wasn't points in these games where they had been challenged. The guys that I met a few weeks ago when we sat down on stage and you and I were talking about the makeup of this team and the culture of the team and the different personalities you had, what have you seen collectively, and maybe if there's a leader or 2 individually that you've seen show up that not only have they gone 8-0 in the last 8 games, but they've been able to withstand teams coming back and pushing, because not every game was easy, obviously.
I think it's just that. It's been their ability to handle adversity. And I think this goes back to the first half of the season, being forced to travel our first 4 games. The practice conditions were very, very difficult. At times they were just downright bad, given the field conditions we were forced to practice in. I think that's what kind of shaped them to be as mentally tough as they are now. I give you, for example, the Corcoran game. We were in a dogfight for 4 quarters, and it took everything we had. So the guys have just developed that kind of callous, that mental toughness, and that ability to handle adversity through, I think, the first half, that first stretch of our season. If we're going to, spotlight an individual, I think it's, pretty obvious that Vinny Ferenzi is, in my opinion, the best overall football player in Section 3. When you look at the plays he makes for us on both sides of the ball, he doesn't come off the field. The kid has a workload like I haven't seen before. He's one of the very few quarterbacks I've allowed to play defense, and the kid just continually makes plays for us at clutch times when we need it. He's really a special kid, so we rallied around him. But all in all, it's the team's ability to stand in front of adversity and take it on head on. It's really impressed me, and I think has defined who we are.
Talk about Vinny Ferenzi at your quarterback, and in this championship game against FM, 12 carries for 107 yards and a touchdown on the ground, while attempting 13 passes for the game and having a touchdown through the air as well. And you said, one of the few quarterbacks that you've ever let play on both sides of the ball. What is the thought moving forward? I mean, he's such an asset offensively. So what is the model for him as you step into the States?
Just keep doing what we've been doing, man. There's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel at this point. We're going to let Vinny be Vinny, and we go into a game with a handful of concepts that we think will be successful throwing the ball. But we kind of put that in his hands, and if he sees an opening and you want to make a play, make a play. For us to tell him not to make a play would be negligent, because he brings so much to our team.
And for you on the defensive side of it, pitching a shutout in the championship game says a lot about this team, especially when one of those 2 losses you had this season came to FM on the road 29-20. What was it that you saw in the first game against FM that you were able to exploit in the second game? And then defensively, specifically, just what you take away from a shutout like that?
Well, we watched a lot of our game from the first time we played them, and we really kind of spotlighted a lot of the mistakes that we made, a lot of the areas where we had opportunities to make plays or come up with big stops, and we either missed tackle or misalignment, something like that. It was more a matter of just kind of cleaning things up, correcting some mistakes, and then focusing on what we knew FM was going to do, and that's get the ball in number two's hands. And we come up with a game plan, and the kids stuck to it.
And we look at the fact that looking ahead here for States, you're going to be playing just a few minutes away from West Jenny, a good thing. CNS is hosting, so CNS will have their own game against Corning for Class AA. For Class A, Section 3, you will be representing, and for Section 4, Class A, Union Endicott will be coming up from the Southern Tier. Just your thoughts on this upcoming game, knowing that you have Union Endicott on the other side of things, and the fact that you get to play relatively close to home.
I love the fact that we're close to home, and that certainly is going to be an advantage to us. But UE is a very good football team. They've won 9 in a row since starting off 0-1. Section 4 is very good football, and I'm looking at their schedule and seeing how they just ran the table and dominated. They've got athletes on both sides of the ball. They run the ball very well, throw the ball very well. They're very balanced. They've got a lot of weapons. They're very dangerous. So we've got to come out and play, in my opinion, our best game of the year yet. It takes a great week of preparation. It takes a good game plan. So it takes an effort for all of us, myself included. That's what it's going to be.
And before I let you go, speaking with Seamus and speaking with you about it, one of the members of your coaching staff within these last couple of years, you had to say an early see you later to. How, just what you could say about playing for him, and if he was here right now, maybe what he would say to you.
He would say, keep it simple, stupid. Coach Phil was always about simplifying. He loved to run the ball. His whole thing was, one play gives you 2. Because you had one play, you go left, you go right, you got 2. 2 gives you 4. 4 gives you 8. Keep it simple, stupid. Get good at 1 or 2 things. And I agree with that. It's one of those things where, to me, it's like, get so good at something and practice it so much that you can't get it wrong. Obviously, we've got to have some answers for things that could come up throughout a game, but like I said, Phil was all about keeping it simple, focusing on 1 or 2 things. But Phil also loved to go out after and have a beer. So his whole thing was, if you run the football, we'll get to the bar a lot sooner. So can you keep the ball on the ground, please? And he wasn't afraid to nudge me if I was throwing the ball too much. Say, hey, coach, not for nothing, but my Budweiser's getting warm. So can you hurry it up? He was a hell of a guy. The kids had a great deal of respect for him. And this senior class was the last group that he coached. So to be able to win it for him would mean an awful lot to them.
And you just said it, the senior class is the last one that he coached. So the fact that his fingerprints are very much on this team that's won a title in the section already, just what that means to you to honor him.
It means so much to honor him. In fact, I looked up and I saw Nancy up in the crowd, and I held my wristband up. It said, "Rest in peace, Coach Wright." Knowing that she's still following us and he's living on through her, it just it means a lot to me to honor him that way.
Absolutely. And a beautiful thing to be able to do that and to honor Coach Phil Wright in West Genesee and obviously Nancy and the whole family. Here, one final point that I find very ironic again is the fact that we chose this year to honor the 2011 team during the summer before the season even got started.
Yeah, we did.
Knowing that we were going to be sitting here talking about another championship team. How ironic and funny and kind of poetic is the fact.
Definitely should have won, and I think there is a blank check for how far that team could have gone in state. So to represent them and go grab one for them would mean a lot to me and to them too.
That coming from Joe Corley, West Genesee football head coach, as they get set to move on to states. That game is going to be this Friday, folks. You need to make sure you get out to the game, and I'm ecstatic about the fact that we get to have that. It's going to be at CNS this Friday, November 18th at 8 p.m., and we'll see you in the stands for that. Coach, as always, thank you for your time, and thank you for everything that you've given me professionally and personally on and off the field.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you all you do, and hopefully we're chatting next week about the semifinals.
Absolutely.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cubal needs. Cafe Cubal, coffee for the soul.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Syracuse, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York. Coming to you, fall 2022. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Cafe Cubal 30. And my buddy here, Mr. Tom Baleno, the head coach of Union Endicott and their Tigers. Mr. Baleno, how are you?
I'm doing great. Glad to see you. How you been?
I've been doing very well. And like I said, I didn't think people knew that a Union Endicott gave you an SEC type of office. And we're calling this your office right now. You look out over them rolling hills that I know all too well of the Binghamton Southern Tier. You got the windows right there, got the field outside. You're looking like Nick Saban right now, or a Lane Kiffin, which is kind of nice.
Well, I don't know if I could coach like them, but I can pretend I'm them once in a while.
So I'm happy to have you here. And you know what? They win, and so do you. And Union Endicott made a presence for itself last season in the postseason. You're doing it again. First and foremost, congratulations on your Section 4 Class A championship.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that. Our boys are playing pretty well right now, so we're excited to see that. It's always feels good when you start seeing things start to click a little bit. So you're working with high school kids, and you keep on. You might say the same thing 100 times, and then the 101st time they finally do it, and that's exciting. So that's what coaching and teaching is all about.
And some of those things, like you say, if you say something 100 times and then it,
and the way that you're coaching them and what to look for.